PDP chieftain Sowunmi don't come out and come say President Tinubu they do big mistake for some things when they do. In fact, for a lot of things when they do, the hardship, the politics, and a lot of policies when they implement, when they launch Nigeria into the realm of decay, extreme poverty that's causing Nigerians pains and penury at the moment. Sowunmi is saying that the president is making lots of mistakes, big mistakes at that matter. I want you to listen to what he has to say.
The reorganization of the presidential communications team came on the heels of the maiden meeting between State House correspondents and the now designated special advisor, policy communication, Daniel Bwala.
My appreciation is to the president as a man of courage who has considered me worthy to appoint me as his spokesman, special advisor on media and public communication, and will ensure that in communicating on behalf of the president to the Nigerian people, we do our best in the discharge of our function. As the official spokesman of the president, I want to assure you all of my unalloyed commitment and support and collaboration. All of us are servants of the president. There is no issue as to the differences in terms of the responsibility. Everybody knows his responsibility. I am not here to define the responsibility of anybody other than myself, because it will amount to gaslighting anybody. I only came to introduce myself to you and the role that is given to me by Mr. President. And I told you that role was once occupied by Ajuri Ngilali. So whatever understanding you have of the role that he occupied before, that is what it goes. In law, they call it res ipsa loquito.
Res ipsa loquito. It speaks for itself. Now let's bring in Sowunmi, who is a former spokesperson to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and of course Professor Oko-Jumbo, who is a public communications expert and fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. And on the score of public relations is where I'd really like to start this discourse. Let me start with you, Prof. Don't worry, I'm not picking on you, but you know you need to weigh in first. I mean, from the list that we have here, 13 special advisors on one form of communication or the other. And we've heard from the presidency that there'll be no lead spokesperson for President Tinubu. Let's start from there. What does that, portend? What does it mean?
It creates some concerns probably at three distinct levels. First of all, the question of optics. If you have a company and that company has 5 spokespersons, a company that's sending one product into the market, what will they all be saying? You might decide to separate the product and say, so you talk about this aspect, this one talks about this aspect. But the point is, it is presumed they will all meet. And the question for me is, what will be the clearinghouse for these 13 people? I don't sense there's going to be any. So whereas you can't deny the right of the president to appoint so many people, you can't deny the right of the president to say that these are the official spokespersons for the presidency. The observer has a right to wonder. If there is a minister of information, the presumption then is that that minister is just on national communication and this one is the presidency. So what makes it necessary to have that many people? That is the part I don't understand. So from the angle of public relations, you ask yourself, will they be addressing different publics? Is the same public?
No, the same Nigerian public.
And if what we've seen so far is anything to go by, what one sees is that one person or the other has something to say about government and goes on with it. Another comes with noted contradiction. So there's genuine concern about the presumed, what is to be gained by this? That's what I don't understand. But I think there's a plus in the redesignation. Okay, by that designation, you then say, okay, this one is only communicating policy. But that would create for me the trouble of having to listen to several people before I understand what government is doing on any particular issue. So the optics are not very exciting. The perception of national communication. Remember, I was once the special assistant to the Minister of Information and National Orientation.
Yeah.
At that time, some of the parasites. You see, national communication comes from a pool of information centers all over the country that feed into the Federal Ministry of Information. and the minister stands at the head of it. That's why you speak of FICs. That's why every press secretary in a government agency is what you call a resident information officer sent there by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Right.
How will all of this play together? It's going to be somewhat distracting, I suspect.
More questions than answers coming from Prof there. Show me your thoughts. I mean, does this government or any government for that matter need that many spokespersons, especially when you say there is no lead spokesperson for this government?
You know, thank you, Prof. It's been a while we've not seen
It certainly
ourselves,
has.
And we have been together since 1999, even before then. So we understand this business. As a southwestern person, the first newspaper house in Nigeria is Wiro in Abeokuta. The Ibadan, Lagos, Ogun axis is where you have the middle level, high level owners of bylines and the people who
Columns and
own the columns. That's there. And Asue Tinubu, the president now, is one of those politicians, if you like, who has invested heavily in the media. He has enough titles. He has enough television outfit. I am disgusted. First of all,
That's a very strong word.
Yes, I
Very
know.
Right.
It is. I'm disgusted in the sense that there are mistakes you expect a novice who doesn't understand these things to make. You don't expect that from someone who has been governor in Lagos. I know because when they were in their second term, I was a special advisor to the governor of Ogun State, Otumagbenga Daniel Media, and I used to cross swords with Dele Alake in those days. And I know how tight their media outfit is. I know a lot of strong people and strong voices that have managed the complexity of his media, even in the midst of crisis when he was having both his academic issues with Ganifa Emi, the ones he had with Obasanjo and all that. Why will he become president of Nigeria and begin to say that putting together a media team is such a cacophony of strange fellows? And I'll tell you why.
Right.
Number one, on whose table does the box stops? Who clears it, like my brother mentioned?
Yeah.
The other question is that if, for instance, there's a breaking news in Nigeria and CNN wanted to talk to someone, who do they call? That's even mild. The third one is, imagine for a second that there is a communication crisis that they all now need to go to television or whatever to speak to. And then maybe, engages as the alternative speaking head against one and defeats him. I engage against another one, let's say the person defeats me, and another person engage against the third one, and there's a draw, sort of. Let's just put it that way, like a debate. What do you think you have communicated to the people?
Nothing.
Put that aside. The other thing is that, you see, you can ask yourself, the United Nations is a very big, humongous bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Do they have a cacophony of 1 million people calling themselves spokesperson? The presidency of the United States of America is also a very big government where they are just, the new president is saying they want to cut it down with do you think they have so many spokespersons? What they don't understand is that there are about 4 keys that they must remember all the time. We need to educate them so that they know that we don't hate them. We just want them to do the best for their country. They need people that will do spokesperson interface. They need people that will be gatekeepers on their social media and all of that. They need people that will design the firewall to ensure that if something comes up for their policy, they need people that will do the media management and the metrics. They need people that will do orientation-related persuasion. The world has gone out of this business of talking attack dogs. You know why? Because communication now is consumed and delivered at such a micro level that young people don't even have the time. The believability is the most important.
Isn't that the argument now for this number of people? Because you've just, made a long list of people that are needed for... I would like you to address that. But then again, who really gives the brief as to, job description? Because we saw Daniel Bwala there. make that address to say,
and he said, as the spokesperson.
I'm now the spokesperson.
That's the kind of thing you're going to
taking
have
over
there.
from the job of Ajuri Ngelale, who left that same position. Only for us to now hear from Bayo Ononuga that it's totally different.
Speaks to the confusion I was talking about.
No, there's a lot of confusion. But let's one thing at a time. Believability of government spokespersons.
Thank you.
Now, look at all the names you've mentioned. Picture all of them sitting on a table, and the Minister of Information is sitting on the table too. Who among that 12, 13, 15 people will be more readily believed? Is actually the Minister of Information.
Absolutely.
That's what everybody is overlooking.
Right.
He does not convey any form of abrasive temperament, and all the time he intervenes, he is presenting specific issues. How can you not
Now
know
you're addressing the person and not necessarily the office.
Of course, because
is
you're
it both you're
procuring
talking
this.
about
I
here?
want to address both.
Both,
You're
right.
procuring these people to enhance your believability, enhance your visibility. But you don't send to the village square all your children, including the Rumbucksters ones, so that the family image is no longer understood. So that's the crisis on the table. Now, coming to the matter of the clearinghouse, if all of us can speak without recourse to the institution established by government for its own communication, with centers in every local government, what you call FICs, Federal Information Centers, with resident information officers in every minister's office as press secretary, and his job is to send daily report to the Minister of Information. When I was essay to the minister, I was the one warehousing those reports.
Yeah.
And at the end of every month, we'll pick out the press secretary that made the best reports and also published more than others, and he was getting a ministerial award. Now, that office is in existence. These spokespersons for the government are not coming. I didn't hear that that's where there will be a clearinghouse, because that's the only place that feedback from the masses feeds straight into the peak of the pyramid. When we were small,
Sunday Diary, for example, was initially designated to, he was assigned to the Ministry of Information,
Yes.
Special Advisor on Public Communication
yes,
and
in
Orientation.
ministry.
Yeah.
Today, with the statement, for instance, with Boala's opening statement, one thing is apparent, the way it always works since 99, like Segu knows, he has declared hostilities. That slip he made, he has mobilized all the 12 others against himself. He'll be saying it's a mistake, but he can recover from that thing. Now, all of them are in the struggle for relevance. You will look for how much noise to make and then point out, these ones are not talking. Remember, I worked with a minister who was also, why is everybody talking about Chukwuemeka Chikelu till tomorrow?
Yeah.
Whom did he attack? One person.
So, Segun Sowunmi, let me bring you in here very quickly because, of want of time. What does this really say about the level of rigor that goes into the process of appointing officials, especially when it comes to this level of appointments?
It is symptomatic of how it is now clear to me that it is easy, or it could be easy, to win an election, but it's a completely different kettle of fish to form a government. You have to take a step backward and look at what they have even done with their ministers. And then you come further and say, if you've just changed ministers because you are trying to, rejig the cabinet, is that the reason why you have confusion in something that is a very simple, easy to understand procedure?
Does the government or does the president have way too many people that he's beholden to?
I think
is
that
that
the
what is
problem,
playing
I
out?
actually think that it's the opposite. I think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is running into this trouble because he likes to micromanage by himself. With due respect to the chief of staff, they couldn't have given the responsibility to the chief of staff and there will be confusion because he would have designated it well. They couldn't have given the responsibility to Secretary of the Government of the Federation and there will be this confusion. It would have designated it well. Yeah. But when you bring your yo-yo dandy, happy-go-lucky friends who actually did not contribute anything to your election, make the people who worked so hard, worked so hard, practically tore ourselves and gouged our eyes out on different sides, begin to look at you as someone who doesn't even understand on whose backs you even won. If you had lost this election, would the person who have been saying you cannot get anything done in 30 years, would those type of people be able to be now having such a big presence of space? Why would you even imagine for a second There are 3 of us on the table now.
Yeah.
You're the lead of this program. Imagine if all of us were equal leads. And then you wanted us to say it this way. There's something called tone of voice in communication.
Well, like they say, Prof, I mean, anything that has more than one head is a monster.
It is a monster.
There's a good old, wise saying that too many cooks spoil the broth. Where do we go from here? And really, why the fixation on communication persons?
There's this delusion in government that unless you have somebody who is screaming at anybody who says waka to you, you have no communication people. But they forget you address leaders as Your Excellency. The leader is not only in charge of administration, he's also the custodian of value and national character. Right. Leaders don't return waka when you say waka to them. Anybody returning waka on behalf of the Queen, on behalf of Donald, already offends the sensibilities of the people.
I'm trying so hard not to break your line of thought. Trying to translate what waka means for those who are wondering.
Okay. It just means to hell with you.
Right. Yeah. Good.
So now you have that. You remember that about 12 years ago, the concept of I need my own attack dog came into the presidency. A president does not need an attack dog. The Shagari government was more attacked than any other government. Right. More than Shagari. Babangida was even a military leader. The media was shredding him. You see, is an indication of maturity that you allow the thing to go on, and then when your spokesperson comes, people are compelled to pay attention. And when you also have a spokesperson who is not naturally offensive, who by the time he leaves, you can isolate A, B, C, D things he said. The challenge with the crowd, the dancing team he has brought out is this. They are all so busy entertaining that they are distracting the audience, so there's nobody to watch. They're also eager to say, oh, the president did this. Oh, don't forget the purpose of this. You see, it becomes information dissemination, not communication, not advocacy. And then you go, Mr. President, I've already told them, they are not appreciating this thing you did. No. What is the image? Even when you don't understand the president, the dignity of those working with him compels you to exercise some caution.
Do you think President Tinubu is in charge here in terms of choosing who should speak for him?
I think I would rather just advise him on how to solve this problem that he has put himself in now. Bayo Ononuga leads and carries a title that makes it clear that he's leading. Every other person takes second step and get titles that let them understand that this is the boss. You know why? Because somebody has to be responsible for getting the welfare for them to be able to even do the job, the slush fund and managing it. Somebody has to be responsible for measuring to see that whether performance indicators are met. Right. Somebody has to be responsible whether the tone of voice is appropriate. Somebody has to be responsible to determine whether we're going to respond to this person or we're not going to respond to this person. That's on one side. Yeah. The other thing is, with due respect to the president, if you cannot put together a simple thing like a communication team, which of them will be in cabinet to understand the directive principles of your government? All 3? Okay, if you are going abroad and you have to go some of these trips, which of them goes with you as a rule? The Prime Minister of India was here a couple of days ago. While he was in Nigeria, you can see what his comm teams were doing. They were already generating the traction of the stories and all that. It was already going haywire. What were our own Humpty Dumpty Started? What were they doing? Busy taking picture. One person was running ahead, breaking protocols to jump in front of them. We're just disgracing ourselves. If you see I'm a little bit agitated, you know why? I'm agitated because you see, when your brother fails, you fail. You are failed. Right. Today now, the kind of bragging right people like us used to have when people like General Buhari or any other person was on the table as Yoruba men is all but gone. Because on the same, look at what was Buhari's media like. He had Femi Adesina head. He had Garba Shehu, special assistant, was the next. And there were a lot of speaking head. He had a Buhari media team that people like Akishiju were running. These guys are just not getting it right. And because they think that they are dandy, they think that they are some kind of fantastic outliers, and the output does not even reflect that. I don't want him to fail.
Prof, I'd like you to say what you want to say, but I want to also ask, what kind of I was going to say, what kind of PR person does the president need? Because that's really what they are, the communications person.
If you bring any PR person, he will fail.
Why?
Because there's already enough people to create a quarrel in the room. Are you going to send them away for the PR person to function? I don't see how that's going to happen. Now, on the issues he's raising, I think the major thing, the question to ask now is, what's the way forward for Mr. President? He has set up a team.
Yeah.
Now, you don't expect he will now solidify them because he spoke.
No, he won't.
So he has to define rules of engagement. The Villa has one spokesperson who is advisor to the president. That was Shegun Adeniyi's position. Other people have held that position. What's her name? Ruben. No, even before then, what's Remi Oyo was Obasanjo's spokesperson. Who else was doing the same job? So you find that from there, there's the spokesman of the president and there's the national communication machinery. Today, both are conflicted. And that's why if they succeed in drowning out a minister of information that's securing some dignity for the government, all these people, they have no forwarding address with all due respect to them. If the government does not go strictly to make a distinction between information dissemination and communication and advocacy, you have people who will enumerate all the things. People are not appreciating it. The government has done this, nobody wants to memorize that. They want human interest communication. Somebody who will say, well, yes, the point you're making is correct, but I'm not telling you that we've spent 3 trillion on roads. I'm telling you that government has made it possible for 2.so million number of people to travel without accident and at less cost. It is somebody who is calm, who is focused on development communication, not
propaganda machinery.
I keep making the point about information dissemination. Oh, Shegun, I'm speaking for Shegun. You know, Shegun gave some people money there. He even donated to widows. That's not what I want to remember. I want to remember that Shegun, because he was there, lives have changed. Now, these people are all going to be doing information dissemination. Is going to create more offense because the listener cannot extract the human interest element. Is only going to appear to be that you assemble a number of people. Just keep telling us, oh, Tinubu did this, Tinubu did that.
Final word, Shegun.
You know the worst part of this whole nonsense is the fact that everybody is going to be doing influence peddling. Oh, I'm the one that took a picture of the president. Therefore, I'm the one that people should run to. They'll start running around the ministers and stuff, just causing chaos. He needs to come back from Brazil and come and fix this mess. You know why? Because the reputation of the president of any nation is the alter ego of the country. And you can't create this mess and tell us to now say that, okay, yeah, Nigerians were, like, we are who?
Gentlemen.
Just one word, one sentence.
Yes, 30 seconds.
Everything the president is doing is in an attempt he believes to do what is right. That's why he should listen to advice and improve on this one he has done, which is not good enough.
Very good place to live in. Professor Okeke-Ekun, thank you very much for joining us. Public communications expert and fellow at the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Shegun Sowunmi, a former spokesperson to ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar.
Still loyal.
Still loyal. Great. That's good to know, and he'll be very happy to hear.
Criticism is a lifeblood of every man, government, administration. The place of criticism in strengthening any process cannot be, however, be overemphasized. We must learn to accept criticism. We must welcome critics. You understand? More especially those who are doing constructive criticism. It's of high pertinence that will create the vacuum, will create the chance for these critics to have their view. Sometimes they put us on our toe to bring out the best in us. That is more reason why we must be open to critics. You understand? However, the case of Obasanjo is different. You are aware that the presidency and Obasanjo is getting it hot. They are firing shots at each other. After the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, called for the sack of the current INEC chairman,